Hey, what's going on, guys? Isaiah here. So this is one of the first black decks that I'm going to be, kind of showcasing on the channel. It's a little bit of an unconventional leader, um, to say the least. A lot of people probably don't even remember this leader, but I did. So, first things first. Yes, I did post that ruling yesterday about the Vieira, interaction with Time Agent Vegeta. And essentially, if you weren't able to see that, if you attempt to play Vieira from your drop area by warping Time Agent Vegeta, uh, Vieira's effect will essentially like fizzle out because Time Agent Vegeta's permanent will be the reason why he's going to warp and not from Vieira's cost. If you want to kind of learn a little bit more about why that works, I posted it in the discussion group on Facebook, so you can go in the discussion group on Facebook and check that out for sure. But let's hop into the deck. So essentially, what this leader is, he's a black Saiyan. Front side is when he attacks, you burst 3 to draw 1 card. So you can mill. So it's a front side mill leader. You got a lot of targets that are free that you can play off of him. And then his awaken is when you're at 4 or less life, you untap 2 energy and flip him over. So he does not self awaken, which is unfortunate. But we play like 12 cards in the deck to help us self awaken. So it shouldn't be that big of an issue. You should potentially be able to awaken by like turn 3, which is like kind of like the sweet turn. On the backside, he doesn't draw on the backside, but he has like kind of a better skill for what this deck wants to be doing. So it's activate main, burst once per turn, burst 3. You can choose up to 1 black battle card with the energy cost of 3 or more in your drop area and add it to your hand, and then he gains plus 5k. So he becomes a 20k beater for the turn. And you could potentially add stuff back like your tag team Gohans, your Hachiaks, or your Turles back to your hand. Or if you're trying to extend and draw a couple cards, you can add back Bardock Awakened Instincts if you're already awakened. So this is a really good, backside skill for kind of like what I wanted this deck to kind of do. So let's go into the main deck. We play 2 Kais. We play the Kais over the Kraken Space Time because we want to give like our entire deck the ability to play double strike. If we were playing Kraken Space Time, we'd kind of alter a little bit of the cards in the deck to kind of fit that. But Kai just works. This could be Champa. It doesn't have to be Kai. I just like Kai personally because I don't forget to give double strike. Next up, one of our first self awakeners. Play 1-drop Black Mass Saiyan. Like I said, it's a 1-drop self awakener for the base of it just kind of being there, but it also kind of helps in the mirror match. So if your opponent attempts to play stuff like Nagrishi, Turles, Tag Team Gohan, Trunkses, or Kais, they have to discard 2 cards each time they would do that. So this card is really, really good and kind of like potentially a staple going back into side decks, depending on how popular the new black stuff is going to be in the next set. Next up, Koitsukai. This card is becoming like a staple in almost all of my black decks. Essentially, like with the amount of like counterplays, free battle cards, and just free or just battle cards that play on your on my turn, or just like there's a lot of those. So essentially what he does, you remove him from the game by tapping 1 energy. You put 2 cards back, or put 1 or 2 cards back, draw the same number. And then for the rest of the turn, if my opponent will play a battle card on my turn that's 2,000 or less, they have to discard 2 cards, or I think warp 2. So this card is really, really good if you're trying to push for game. Because your opponent can't do stuff like Topo without having to lose 4 cards out of hand. If you're playing against a mirror match and they use the Majin Buu attack rare, if they mill like a Time Agent Trunks or Vegeta and they want to attempt to play those, they have to discard 2 cards, stuff like that. So it's really, really strong. I think it should be a staple in almost every black deck, especially aggro decks. Next up, we play the Majin Buu attack rare. This card is once again becoming like a staple in almost every black deck. Helps extend the turn. This graveyard hate card is really good. 2 power bursts. We have 3 targets for it. Really 2 because we don't really want to grab back Koitsukai. But this deck inherently is an aggro deck. So you really don't want to like overdo your negates. But just having access to negates is something that you need. Next up is the 1-drop Kai. It's basically a pseudo super combo. Our leaders are Black Saiyan, so if we mill it, we can play her. She's good. 4 Bibbidi. This is just a super combo of choice. You can do a 2-2 split, but you do need to have some number of Bibbidi. Going into next set, it's arguably the best black super combo to be using, depending on your deck build. Next up, we got the U3s. So we're going to just do all the U3s together. They synergize with, all the cards in the deck. So we got Nigrishi, Vieira, and Anilaza. They're just really good cards. They're basically just aggro in nature. It's just how they are. There's really nothing like to kind of go into about them. Next up, we play Sun Goku, Dimensional Defender. It's a 1-drop Self-Awakener. So essentially, like, you overwhelm 3, tap 1. When he attacks, you take a life, and then you can put up to 2 cards from your warp to your drop area. So he kind of helps mitigate the fact that he's overwhelmed in a deck that we really don't want to like be warping our drop area, because we don't have too much warp to drop recursion. But the card itself is good. It's really efficient, only 1 energy, and does a pretty decent job at what he does. Next up, Time Agent Trunks. Arguably the better of the two between Time Agent Vegeta and him. He's a 3-drop Self-Awakener. He's a blocker, so he kind of works really well with Nigrishi. You can block on your opponent's turn and then play Nigrishi from the drop area, so that's something that's really, really cool. And to just, in general, just having synergy with the Nigrishi, or if you're going all out and you use like if you combo your board, use a Majin Buu attack rare, you mill another Trunks, you can play him Self-Awaken or take a life, then combo the Trunks, and then potentially combo another card that you got out of your life. So that's just something to think of. Next up, you got to be playing 4 Gohans if you're playing the Vieira. It's really the only way you're going to be able to play Vieira from now on consistently. It does kind of take a few attacks, like I said, away from you. But it works really well with the leader, because even if we don't have one in hand, if we mill one to the drop area, due to that backside, we can burst 3, add it back to our hand, and then gain plus 5k. So it's really, really good. Synergizes really well with the leader, even if we don't open it. Time Agent Vegeta. The card arguably kind of got a little worse, not being able to be useful with Vieira, but it's still a 19k beater. The activate battle, like I said, in my opinion, isn't really that great. It's kind of too costly, but it does come in handy from time to time. We skipped those U3s. We already talked about those. Let's talk about Bardock. So one of the reasons why we play Bardock in the deck is our leader does not draw on the backside, as I said before. And sometimes, you just need to draw cards. You got to kind of sometimes forego your strategy that you're doing to kind of filter through your hand. So it kind of gives you access to just discarding U3s outside of your Unison skill, which is fine. And it's just another target for Vieira, so it's good. It's a staple. 3 Hatch. Hatch is good if you're playing the aggro deck. You can also add this card back with Vegeta, so that's another really good kind of combo with the deck. You discard it, mill 2. If you don't hit off of that, you burst 3. Play any free dudes that you want to play, and then you can add back Hatch or add back a Turles. Speaking of Turles, the best black battle card in the game. Turles, if you're playing black, excuse me, 9 times out of 10, you're playing Turles. There's only like a few decks that don't, but this card this honestly is probably the best home for him, because you can mill him, you can warp him off of the Dimensional Defender, you can draw 2, discard him off of Bardock Seal, and then you can just burst 3 and add back the Turles. So he's really amazing in this deck because of how well you can just grab him back and recycle him. And lastly, our 3 Unisons. This card arguably is not as good in this deck as it would be in something like VJX, which, is fine. It's just a 15k beater, and it kind of helps filter our hand to get our U3s out of our hand. So that's just something that you're kind of just doing. But, it's a 15k beater, and at best, it's, I think, triple attack, or dual attack, 25k. So it's still a good card. But that's pretty much the deck, guys. you can definitely test this deck. Of course, you know, the link is going to be down in the description. You know, test it out, have some fun with it. It's, you know, not going to win you every single match, but it's definitely going to be a deck that you're going to have, you know, a lot of fun with. And you're going to see like how well it just kind of synergizes and flows together. You know, but lastly, to kind of finish off the video, if you guys want to pick up any of these cards, definitely check out the, you know, Tcg Player Link in the description. Helps out me, helps out my team for future events, and, you know, potentially picking up you know, future cards for set 10. Check out my team channel. I know we aren't posting videos right now, but we're going to be getting back into that when we're actually able to kind of sit together and you know, do team stuff. And lastly, check out the Dbs-Decks you know, Twitch channel. You know, we're doing a lot of stuff together, having like, you know, Monday night, you know, battles between players and stuff like that. So definitely check that out for a fun time if you just got some downtime on Monday nights. But that's pretty much it, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Leave a like, leave a comment. If you disliked it, leave a dislike and tell me why. But that's pretty much it, boys. Peace.